Hello, Gen Genies. It's me, Julie.
And Rich.
Before we get started today, we want to let you in on some exciting news. We have launched our new Patreon page for the podcast.
Woohoo! We are super excited about this new chapter for CutOff Jeans.
So, Patreon is a website where listeners like you can pledge a small monthly amount. We're talking only $5 or $10, guys, to support the podcast and help defray the cost of bringing you the show each week.
To be clear, CutOff Jeans will continue to be absolutely free. But to thank you for your support, we are going to offer our patrons some fun little extras.
Like early access to the podcast every week, where you'll get to hear the latest episode before it's released to the general public.
And why not make your friends jealous with exclusive patron-only CutOff Jeans swag?
Fancy. And here's something you guys have been asking for, and I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to host a monthly, hour-long, online Ask Me Anything session where patrons at the $10 level can literally ask me anything.
Anything? You're a brave woman, Julie.
You know, I know. I'm also going to give access to my blog, Are You My Father?, where I tell the story of my search, actually it's my life story basically, for my biological father in even more detail than I did on the podcast.
Wow, your blog was the original inspiration for CutOff Jeans, wasn't it?
It was.
Wow. Well, all patrons at any level will receive a shout-out on the podcast along with our undying gratitude for your support.
Yep. You guys know that this show is a labor of love for me. It's something I'm very passionate about. It'd mean so much to me if you would consider supporting our work here on the podcast by going to patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast.
That's Patreon, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast.
We'll add a link to it on the podcast and on the Facebook page. Thank you all, my Gen Genies.
And now, on with the show.
Woo!
Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip, hip, hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In CutOff Jeans.
Welcome to CutOff Jeans, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon-Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the co-host and producer of this podcast. How's it going, Julie?
Oh my gosh, I'm so frazzled right now.
It's hot here. It's hot.
Well, it is not just hot. It is the face of the sun.
Folks, we're in Southern California and we're suffering through a heat wave. And when I look at my little weather app, I see nothing but high temperatures for like the next 10 days. So we're just
really? See, I
yes.
won't. That you're braver than I don't even want to look at the future. I did buy my annual blow-up kiddie pool. That
you have to buy one every year?
Oh, yeah, because they don't last for more than a year in that backyard.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Why don't they last?
Oh, because all the weather and everything, and they're cheap. They're like $40.
Don't you? I mean, so don't you take them down at the end of the season? I've never had one, so I don't know.
Oh no, I mean they're not like the hard-sided doughboy pools.
I just picture like your backyard littered with like graves of all of these old pools that you used to have.
Well, I throw them away. Yeah. I do throw them away after I'm done with them. Or recycle them.
You're going to look in your backyard later, and I'm going to be in that kiddie pool. I can't take it anymore.
I'm the only one who uses it. My kids think it's ridiculous, and I just sit there. And this year's is a good one. It's it's round, but it's got a little bench in it, like a blow-up bench, so you can kind of like recline, and which is perfect. Just all I need to do is be immersed in water.
Julie, you and I should do the next podcast from the kiddie pool. Like both of us sitting in it, like with a little cocktail.
That would be hilarious.
We would need somebody to like have the boom mic.
Yes, we would need boom mics, definitely. Definitely.
So that we don't like electrocute ourselves. Oh, and we need a pool boy.
And we need a pool boy.
To bring us refreshments.
Yes. Well, we can. I'll make Becca do that. If he's up by then.
And tonight's very special episode of CutOff Jeans.
from the backyard pool. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the reason I'm frazzled is not the heat, by the way. So I got this. So first of all, I woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't go back to sleep, as is my way. Yes. And there was something happening in a case that was bothering me. So I got up and I worked for like an hour. And then I went back to sleep. But then I woke up again half an hour ago. but I'm raring to go.
There are times when I wake up at night in the middle of the night and I think, oh, I should go do, some work or write some lyrics or whatever. And if I do that, if in the times I've done that, I can't go back to sleep because I've already like woken up my mind.
Yeah, I usually do that too. But I'm not going to get back to sleep if I don't.
Right.
Because I'm just going to think about what I was thinking about. And until I can clarify it by getting on my computer and checking something out, I'm just going to worry about it. Oh, this is interesting. So, Ancestry has started they now show us how many segments are in our matches, like, 222 centimorgans and 7 segments or what have you. Actually, no, they don't tell you how many segments. They tell you what the largest segment is.
Oh, okay. I saw the centimorgan thing, but I didn't see segments. Right,
which is, and I've noticed that. My favorite one was that I noticed yesterday. It has said that there is one segment we match by 7.2 centimorgans, and the largest segment is 8.
Oh, wow. Those are good odds.
That's magical. Yeah. So there's that.
I'd bet on that horse.
So then I happened to be looking at my mother's ancestry yesterday, and suddenly it said full sibling, which is never said before not for me, but for a match. And I'm like, I didn't know any of Lynn's sisters tested. And I looked a little closer and realized it was her double first cousin. So, because we've talked about this before, double first cousins are when a brother and sister marry a sister and brother. So 2 siblings from one family marry 2 siblings from another family.
Okay. Is that common?
More so than you would think.
Really?
Yes.
I thought that only happened in the movies,
No. It happens a lot. And actually the case that I woke up to look at, it happened there too, which was one of the things I wanted to double check.
Identical cousins all the way.
They laugh alike, they walk alike, sometimes they even talk alike. You can lose your mind.
Like Patty Duke did.
The Patty Duke Show, everybody.
It's terrible.
Yeah, so I was like, at first I was verklempt. But then I realized it was her, but they wrote full sibling. They didn't write, but it
came across as if it was a full sibling.
It says, actually, because normally it says close family. It used to say just close family to first cousin. Mm-hmm. Now, and that's from anywhere from a first cousin to a half sibling. But now it says full sibling.
Wow.
Which, for me, makes sense, but that could mess up a lot of people who don't understand.
It almost shouldn't make that judgment call. It should just tell you how close, like, it could be. I thought it used to say, like, it could be a sibling or a first cousin, or it could be this.
And it does still do that, by the way. If you look at the centimorgan count, you click on the drop-down menu on that, it'll give you a list of the things that it may be and the likelihood of that.
Okay.
But still, it's like glaring like full sibling.
Yeah. Mm. But it's not one of her siblings. It's not one of your mothers.
No, it's her double first cousin who has been there for a while.
Right.
It was good for me, though, to be able to see how that impacts the DNA.
In case it works for it comes across in any of your other searches, right?
And it does come across on the other searches. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because as soon as I'm building a tree and I see that there is like a bunch of these siblings married a bunch of these siblings, all from the same family, I know I'm in trouble. Because all of a sudden, all the traditional values go out the window.
Yeah, right?
Yes. And it's difficult to explain that to some clients sometimes. And, and it comes into play quite a bit.
Human beings are so complicated. Like,
Why can't they all just be dogs?
Oh no, because then you would end up, because don't like female dogs have lots of litters, if they were not fixed and they were out in the wild, wouldn't they have lots of litters with different partners?
Oh, we're still talking about genealogy. Okay.
Oh. Yes, I'm trying to figure it out.
I was wondering where you were going with that. Okay. Yeah.
I thought this was a genealogy podcast.
It is.
Yeah.
And way to bring it back around, Rich.
It was something one of our listeners seemed to forget when they posted something political on our Facebook page.
Okay. That was not a listener.
Oh, really?
No, it was not a listener. It was.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I would hate to think that our listeners wouldn't know that you shouldn't post something that it doesn't have something to do with genealogy or something we've discussed.
No, it was the mother of somebody I went to high school with that snuck in. When I first started that page, I went ahead and invited everybody on my friends list to the group.
I see. Okay.
Because I wanted to get people in there. And she was in there, and so I think she's probably never actually been to the page.
I just thought it was interesting that she would post something political and inflammatory on a page that she doesn't even know about or that she doesn't listen to our podcast. That's so weird.
Yeah, well, she's no longer there.
Yes. And if any of our the people on the Facebook page saw it, it went down. We took it down pretty quick, or you took it down pretty quick. But as soon as I saw it, I texted you. I'm like, Julie, what's this?
Yeah. It was like, no, you didn't. No, you did not. Yeah, that was
because I don't. I think we have a really good bunch on that page. People are really active, and I think people are very courteous to one another. And there are certainly pages where you could go and post things like that.
Oh. Yesterday on one of the adoptees lost in the reunion page for adoptees. Wow, it got ugly. One of the members was referencing the fact that for them it's difficult as an adoptee, but it's even more difficult as a gay adoptee. Mm-hmm. And there were people that tried to shut her down and tell her to go start a gay adoptee page.
Oh dear.
And it was ugly.
Wow.
I don't know. I have great difficulty with people with specific beliefs that like to tell you that they have nothing against you, but God does.
Well, that's been around for ages, and we've all lived with that. We're sinners, all of us. And thank God for that, Julie.
And all sins are equal.
Because it would be boring.
Yes.
My friend, I have a friend named Candy I grew up with, and she's like, oh my God, we're going to hell. I'm like, I'm so glad you're going to be there with me, honey.
Yes. Frankly, hell is going to be much more fun. If we're all going to hell, the ones that they say are going to hell, it's going to be a much more fun place to be. You know what? But we're used to it. We're prepared for it with this heat. So.
Yes. And, and the living in this current world.
Yes.
I sort of feel like, because we're still going on with this whole virus thing and everything, and I'm stuck at home and I'm not working, and I feel like I'm going into this Zen place where I'm just going to sit out the rest of the year and just, relax and stop my life and just calm down and not have to worry about getting ahead and doing this and accomplishing things. Yeah. I mean, I am still doing that, but I have to sort of go into that Zen space in order to exist.
You. I wish I could. I am not feeling specifically or particularly Zen at this moment in time, and I think it's all I need to be off social media more than I am, because I'm so triggered by everything. And it's not. Here's the thing: I make a point of not being friends with people who I fundamentally disagree with.
Right.
I just, why? What's the point in that? However, people that I do agree with will post stuff that triggers me about, look at this. And so I'm still seeing it. Well, and I know it's important to be informed, and I know it's, I want to know what is happening on every side so that I can be informed.
Sure.
But it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's
and we're
too
all
much.
And everybody's going through it. But yeah, I think like anything, like drinking or overeating, I feel like we have to monitor how much time we spend on social media, because it's not necessarily a healthy thing for our mental well-being.
I would agree.
When I'm sitting and working on a song, or I'm writing a play right now, I'm totally into it, and it's so nice to be away from everything else. And I go to songwriting workshops online and that kind of stuff. But when I check in on Facebook or Twitter, I really have to limit it. And I'm not always good at it. Sometimes I go down that little rabbit hole as well, but I try not to, because as soon as I start reading it, I click on more, load more comments.
And I think I can handle it. I think that I'm like, oh, this time, this time I'll be fine. This time I'll take the high road. And I can't help it. I can't help but get involved, and that's a problem.
I was reading something this morning, and I did that. I loaded more comments, and I could feel like my blood pressure, rising. And I thought I was going to write something, post something, and I said, you know what? What is it going to do? It's only going to add to this. It's not going to change anyone's mind. I don't need to even bring on the responses and have to check them later. Forget it. So I just don't want to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you. And
it's about self-care.
We're not going to change anybody's mind. There's a certain mindset that is not going to be changed, and we need to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, I would love for somebody to do a study if anybody's mind was actually changed ever from reading Facebook posts or Twitter posts. Has anybody ever really, or is it just confirmation bias? You just look to see people who agree with you, and I'm just as guilty as that. Yeah. I just wonder, did anybody ever read it and go, oh, they're right?
Wait, you're right. Well, there was that famous Oprah episode. Do you remember years and years and years ago, in the 80s, she did that whole episode on racism, and they had KKK members there with black people. And
didn't she go to some town where something horrible had happened, or some race riot had broken out, or something like that, and held it there?
She's done it all, Oprah. But there was somebody who was a KKK member that came back later, and he had changed. There are people like that have that see the error in their ways, but they seem to be few and far between, don't they?
Yeah, we need more Oprahs. Oprah, where are you today?
Oprah, where are you?
We need to put a big bat signal in the sky with a big O. Oprah, come to our rescue. We need you right now.
Maybe she'll talk at the Democratic convention.
I don't know. Maybe she will.
Everybody else is.
Every time she talks, she's like E.F. Hutton. People listen.
It's true. Her and Obama. The O could be for Obama as well.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Right. But I think Oprah would get, she's got more people behind her than Obama.
I think you're right, actually. Yeah. Yeah. She blurs the line more. Isn't that interesting?
But when you think about it, though, she was in our homes for how many years?
Many.
Yeah.
She was in my home for, and she was welcome there.
Love me some Oprah.
Okay. Should we take a break now?
Let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk about DNA.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Or consider supporting us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans Podcast. Now back to Julie and me.
All right, we're back.
We are back, and I have given in and turned on my fans. So if you hear a little fan noise behind me...
It's all your fans.
It's all my fans. I've got my biggest fan here, and it's...
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between race and ethnicity.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yes. So, and I noticed lately, a lot of people have been saying, is Kamala Harris black? Why, what, and I don't know why it matters either way, but there seems to be an issue with it. So, she has been presented as, and even before Biden chose her as his running mate, that he said he was going to choose a woman of color. So, she's certainly of color.
Oh, yes.
And she's black.
Yes.
But, okay, so I'm going to, so I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and I found this YouTube channel called Useful Charts, and it broke the whole thing down for me.
Oh, great. Which
was very helpful. So I'm basically just lifting all this information from that. So kudos, Useful Charts. So Kamala Harris's father was Jamaican, but emigrated to the U.S. Long before she was born, before he was married, and he was a professor of economics at Stanford University. His grandmother was Chrissy Brown, and she was from a place called Brownstown.
Did she own the town? Did her family own the town?
Well, kind of. It was founded by an Irish slave owner named Hamilton Brown.
Okay.
And he was an ancestor of hers, and he was obviously white. Last year, several far-right media outlets tried to call her a hypocrite by claiming that her ancestors were a bunch of slave owners. The fact is,
most of our ancestors, if we've been in this country in America,
we're a bunch of slave owners. Precisely, especially if we're black, by the way.
Yeah.
Which you and I are not. The fact is, most black Americans have at least one white male in their family tree because of the fact that some slave owners raped their female slaves.
Right.
Most of their ancestors were enslaved people, so one might question the logic of those trying to use this fact against somebody who's fighting for equality.
Yeah.
So that's that side. Her mother is from India. Her parents met as grad students at UC Berkeley, and her mother became a cancer researcher. So her ethnicity is, well, she's Indian, but India in and of itself has different ethnic regions.
Mm-hmm. And they have a big caste system as well. Like it's like class, right?
I didn't get into that at all, but that sounds fascinating.
Oh my God, I just listened to an excellent NPR Fresh Air interview with a woman who wrote a book that I think it's just called Caste. And I believe that might even be Oprah's...
C-A-S-T?
C-A-S-T-E. The caste system. And it's sort of like...
I'm not familiar with that term.
Yes. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of Oprah's book club picks. So it all comes back around.
Officially, this episode is called Oprah, Where Are You?
Well, if you think about it, okay, so, I know this is a little bit of we're going to digress here, but, so we are on 100 years since women got the right to vote in this country.
Yes.
So we've been seeing a lot of stories about women's suffrage and all of that kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. The caste system said that white women were allowed to vote.
Oh, right.
But not black women.
Yes.
What was considered a person when you said who could one vote per person? I mean, at one time it was a man.
Is that where the term half caste came from?
I'm sure of it.
Interesting. Well, okay.
But you were talking about India, so I'm sorry. We just digressed.
That's okay.
Yes.
So Kamala's mother is from the region where she would be of the Tamil ethnicity. So she's Tamil. She's Indian Tamil and Jamaican.
Yes.
But she identifies as black.
Okay.
She self-identifies as black. Her grandfather was a public servant in India and Zambia, and he and Kamala's grandmother were Hindu, so she grew up going to both Hindu temples and Black Baptist churches. Mm. So what is the difference between race and ethnicity? Ethnicity refers to a people group that lived in a particular region for a long time and ended up sharing a common language, history, and culture. Hmm. It's all tied in with endogamy as well. Hmm. Race is something different. This is interesting. According to most experts today, race is simply a social construct and has no actual basis in science. Although people have tried, you cannot scientifically identify race by grading skin tone, measuring skulls, or analyzing blood. Mm-hmm. The closest thing you can do to determine race using genetics is to organize ethnic groups by continent. But even then, that presents gray areas. So when we try to match genetic deviation with very specific color words, the science fades away very quickly, and we're left to rely on social conventions, not science, which unfortunately tend to be based on prejudice and stereotypes.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
But it also brings up the idea of like, how do you identify yourself? By what you consider to be your race. Somebody would say to you, so Richard, what do you identify as? Right. I'd be like, well, I'm Jewish. I go by a religion, even though I'm not religious.
Right, but that's your ethnicity.
Yeah, see?
Well, half of your ethnicity.
Or I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Boston. So I feel like
you're a New Englander.
I'm a New Englander. I'm actually a little bit of a townie from Stoughton. So again, even though I have lived in Los Angeles longer than I lived in Boston, I still consider myself, a Bostonian.
Right.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, again, but that's more about what I choose to identify myself.
Right. I mean, I'm Australian.
Right.
Because I was born there and I lived there for the first 15 years of my life. I don't seem Australian. And Australian, by the way, is not an ethnicity or a race. If I say Australians do this, they can't call me racist because Australians are not a race.
Right.
Just saying. And by the way, if I say Australians do this, I'm talking about my Australian friends. I'm not talking about them as a race or as an entirety.
Right.
Because I had an issue. Anyway, should we take a break?
Why not?
Yeah, let's do that and come back with this week's story time.
Thank you for listening to Cut Off Jeans with Julie Dixon Jackson and Richard Castle. You can support us by going to patreon.com/Cut Off Jeans podcast. Now, back to the program.
Okay, we're back.
Hello.
Hello. It's story time.
Yeah, I understand we have, this is a first for us, isn't it? That we're having an update rather than a new story. It's an update on an existing story.
Yes. This is Lori Wagner Knisely, who was on 3 episodes previously. And already I forgot which ones they were. Did I say 53, 54, 55?
It was in the mid-50s.
It was in the mid-50s.
Yeah. It was about a year ago then, right? Like, because it has to be...
It was more than a year ago.
Yes. All right.
Yes. But Lori, she had a 3-part story about being ghosted by her biological mother, and it's really interesting. And she has an update, which was equally as interesting.
Oh, great. And she'll fill us in about what we...
She will. She will. We'll hear a little recap of the whole thing, and then we'll find out the new stuff.
Exciting. Okay. Let's listen.
Let's. Hey, guys. I have on the line... friend of the show, Lori Wagner Knisely.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me back.
You're welcome. So, the last time we heard from you, what episodes were those?
They were episodes 53, 54, 55.
Can you give me the cliff notes of the story before? Just, some bullet points.
Through DNA, I had first located my father through a second cousin in October of 2017. Mm-hmm. Same day that I found out his name, I found out that he had died back in 1986.
Right.
He was married to a woman, had 2 children. I have 2 half-sisters on his side. And then in January of 2018, Missouri passed a new law where they opened up original birth certificates, where I received my original birth certificate with my birth mother's name on it. Because I had done all of this DNA and genealogy work in Ancestry, soon as I had her name, I had a friend, Super Sleuth Susanna, who helped locate my birth mother on Ancestry. So in 2018, I reached out to my birth mother 3 different times. Initially, January 3rd, when I found her on Ancestry, said, hey, we're related through DNA, and she ghosted me, never responded once I told her that I was born in Kansas City in the year. It kind of like enough to say, hey, you know who I am.
Right.
Her husband, I then found out later, her husband died 5 weeks after first contact. But I did not find that out until the second time I tried to contact her with a letter that was returned. That's when I found her husband's obituary. But in between that time, because the letter was in June, my mother tested with Ancestry and 23andMe.
That's right.
I never told her I was on 23andMe, but she tested both sides.
That is so weird that she's like that she ghosted you but still tested.
Yes.
So
yes.
Weird.
Never made it private. So out there for everyone to see. Yeah. So when she returned the letter, that just kind of, shocked me but I found out, okay, she's dealing with her husband's death. And so I did reach out to her through her second Ancestry account, which was tied to the DNA. Condolences, reach out to me whenever you want to. That was in June of 18. And then in November of 19, she blocked me from sending her more messages through that second Ancestry account. Blocked me from searching her on Facebook within a couple of weeks of first contact. So I was taking it as a subtle hint. She just needs time.
Okay. Or not so subtle. One might say.
Well, soon find out how I do not read subtle hints.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So was that where we left off?
That is where we left off. So late June or mid-June of 2019, I got an email from a second cousin match, and it was kind of odd at first because she emailed me, introduced herself as Shelly, and she told me, I'm emailing you through my sister's DNA account on Ancestry. But we're related, and she gave me these two people's names. Their last names are Knutson. And when I first looked at it, I was like, I don't even recognize that name. Finally went out there and looked at my family tree and looked at her sister's DNA and how we were connected. And I was like, oh, this is on my birth mother's side. I first thought it was on my birth father's side because it's kind of a Norwegian name. So I was like, I don't have anything on my grandma's side from my mom's mom.
Okay.
I went out and, like you have preached so many times, I did a real quick and dirty kind of connecting all of these hints to see if I could find this name connected. Come to find out, these people are my great-great-grandparents. So I replied back to Shelly and I says, I'm an adoptee. I did my DNA to find my birth family. And actually, these people are my great-great-grandparents. My great-grandparents were, and I gave her their name.
Okay.
Left it at that and said, I'm excited to connect with family, would love to get to know you. And she replied back within the very next day. She had known BJ and Dottie, which are actually my grandparents. And she says, I know Paula, their daughter. Now, Paula is my birth mother.
Okay.
And she says, Paula does DNA stuff too. She asked me, have you made contact? I'm reading this email and I'm like, does Shelly know when she's being coy, thinking I don't know? Or does she really not know?
I mean, wait, did she say your birth mother? At that point, did she know Paula was your birth mother?
No, she didn't.
Oh, okay. So, I see. So she said, have you made contact with your birth mother, but not meaning that was Paula. Okay.
So I responded back to her and I said, Paula is my birth mother. And I did reach out to her 3 times, and so I gave her a Cliff Note version the 3 times I reached out to her and how she has ignored me. And, I told her I found out her husband has died, so I'm trying to give her time. And her response back immediate, the very next day, was Paula and her are very close. Matter of fact, when Shelly received my first email saying, hey, I'm an adoptee looking for my birth family, she had immediately forwarded that email to Paula and then called her.
Huh.
And so I was just, oh my God, I was just dying when I read that.
Amazing.
Yes. I know. And said when Shelly told Paula that she would forward her the information, Paula was none too impressed. And she said that she would look at it to see if the information was valid. And Shelly said that this seemed quite odd to her because her and Paula had collaborated on family tree stuff, and they had talked about other family members that had kept other relationships secret, and they had tried to find links to find out more information.
But never mentioned that she herself had given up a child.
No.
Wow.
Shelley at that time said, I had no idea that I was talking to your birth mother at the time. And so Shelley kept asking Paula, well, are you sure you don't know anybody that gave a baby up for adoption? And Paula eventually came back and said, well, she did know there was someone who gave a baby up for adoption, but she thought it was a boy and not a girl. Paula's youngest sister gave a child up for adoption.
Right. I recall that.
So I don't know if she's referring to her sister and her sister just didn't remember what gender she had, or if Paula didn't remember what gender she had.
Or was Paula told she had a boy?
That could be true too. Last week in July, Shelley responded back to me. During this 2 weeks, Shelley and I responded quite a bit. We really connected. We connected on Facebook together. Even her sister, Shelley's sister, Chris, I've even connected with her on Facebook. And Shelley sent me an email and was informing me of some other information. And then she ended it with, oh, Paula has replied back to my email, and this is what she has said. And she put the direct quote from Paula. Paula said, I have made it very clear to this person that I will not proceed with or contact or proceed with any contact or conversation. I read it, closed it, and said, I can't even deal with it right now. And actually, that's when I had kind of contacted you and said, hey, we might have a breakthrough. Either the door's going to swing wide open or it's going to get slammed in my face. And it got slammed in my face.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. The worst part of that is this person.
Yes.
Oh, that's just so dehumanizing, isn't it?
That is exactly what I told Shelley.
Yeah.
I said, I understand her not wanting contact, but when she said, this person, I'm not even real.
Yeah. It's just so cruel. I mean, sure, I get it. I understand the biological parents' trauma and all that, but it's another level of cruelty.
Yes. And this is probably the first time that I've actually been able to say it and not just busted out crying.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It just, every time that this person or she has just disconnected herself so much.
Yeah, she has. It's a mechanism. She is somehow validating that it's an okay way to behave.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
Have you tried again at all?
No, I have not. Not with my mom.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
I think you should send her a copy of The Girls Who Went Away.
You know, you ended our interview last time with that book. It's ironic because that book has a lot of special meaning. And so when you mentioned it, it really caught me off guard because I really thought you were reading my mind.
Oh.
When that book was first published, I bought it hoping I would find my mother's birth story in there. And I was almost a birth mother. I was 17, barely 17 when I had my daughter.
Okay.
And I looked at giving my daughter up for adoption.
Okay.
Decided against it.
Uh-huh.
And reading that book brought back some repressed memories of how I was treated that I didn't even think I had repressed.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills. I have all over chills right now.
And so when you first mentioned it, it really threw me for a loop.
Yeah, I bet.
Seeing inside my head because I use that book a lot to reference. I've done many speeches on about adoptees' rights, about what it feels like to be adopted, persuasive speeches in class and stuff. And I reference that book. I have never been able to finish it because the last several chapters are reunion stories. But that book, I recommend to everyone I ever talk to. For you to mention it again.
Well, it's always my first instinct, because the only thing for me that makes sense that somebody would be ghosting you like that, or ignoring you or treating you in that way, is the deep trauma, and how alone they must feel in their trauma.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's probably so liberating for so many birth mothers when they finally read it, to realize that they weren't the only ones that went through this.
Yes.
At this point, you have nothing to lose.
No, that's
by sending it to her, and maybe make a little note on the inside cover and just say, this might help you. I see you, I feel you, I understand your trauma.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to take it personally.
Yeah. That is the key. Trying not to take it personally.
It really is. It really is. Oh my gosh.
See, adoptees understand this. You are speaking words that I have said to myself. This is why this is so good. This is just excellent.
Well, and it's so important that that adoptees are the ones that get to voice this, because I'm tired of hearing so many opinions from people who have no idea what it's like.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's hell. I'm not any of that stuff, but it's just, we're the ones that are affected by this. We're the ones with the data. You know what I mean? Someone else's opinion. It's not a fairy story. It's not rainbows and unicorns. We need to stop the false narrative.
Right. The narrative needs to come from the adoptees,
mm-hmm.
and even from the birth mothers.
Yes.
Yes. They are, as I have quoted so many times, this isn't an actual percentage or, factual, but, 98% of the narrative comes from adoptive parents. 2% comes from the adoptee, and most of that 2% are the adoptees that are coached to promote the narrative of the adoptive parents, and nothing comes from the birth parents. And I want to change that. I'm with you on that, because I want to change that.
That's amazing. That's so, I love that you said that, and I wish that she could hear you say that too, because she probably feels so threatened and is so full of her own guilt, that she doesn't even know that you have her interests at heart.
Yes.
What does Shelley think about all this?
When we met and we were talking about that cruise, and I says, my mom knew about me at that time. Both her and her husband seemed very irritated. My husband perceived it as they were irritated at my birth mother in the way that she was treating me. They were like, your family, why does it matter? And I took it, which I do think that's part of it, but I also took it that they were hurt that they had been lied to, or not the whole truth was given. That I think Shelley thought they were closer, and by not sharing this secret with her, she felt like, okay, we weren't as close as what I thought we were,
Okay.
But they were very irritated of why she won't even talk to me.
Have they tried, or has Shelley tried to reason with her at all? Or
No,
did she just get shut down?
She hasn't, and Shelley's been very, she has mentioned it in her emails. She's like, I don't know if I'm the right person to press her on this.
She doesn't want to confront her. She doesn't want there to be an uncomfortable confrontation.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
About a month ago, I'm scrolling through Facebook on my phone here at home, and you know how it comes up and says, hey, people you might know
Yes.
have common friends.
Uh-huh.
And a picture of my mom pops up. You want to talk about just about fell out of my seat.
Interesting.
Pops up
Mm-hmm.
a picture of her, and it says her name. And it says, you might know her. You have 2 friends in common.
The same name?
Same name. Yep. Same name. And
she's not very good at hiding.
I know. And the 2 friends we have in common are of course, Shelley and her sister, Chris.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, Paula can see, I think.
Well, and also, I believe that you get those suggestions when they have been to your page and stalked your page.
Really?
Yes. I don't think it's just the friends that you have in common because it happens so often. In fact, quite recently, I was looking for an old friend who was very much off the grid that I went to school with in Australia. And every now and then I look for her again because she has a very unusual name. And she suddenly had a Facebook page. And it was very blocked, like closed, like there was one picture, so I knew it was her, and also her name is so unusual, it had to be her.
Right.
And I was like, interesting. But I didn't friend request her or anything. Very next day, I got a friend request from her. So I must have popped up.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, that gives me a whole different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what's happening here. I think she is vacillating, and I think she's just gonna. I think ultimately there's going to be a connection, but she is really not sure how to do this.
Well, and it could be. I do hope it is. I am going to have to really think. When is a good time to send that book?
And it's a gift. Send it to her for her birthday or for Christmas. Just
Yeah.
say, I care about what you might be going through. And this may help you if you've never talked to anybody about it. I just want you to know I understand.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah. Lori Wagner Knisely, once again, thank you for talking to me.
I'll come back with another update.
I know you will.
All right, and that was Lori's update.
And that's one that there's no more, right, from that episode.
There's no more from that episode. I'm truly hoping there is yet one more update since I made that suggestion to her.
Oh, good. Okay. I guess, we should also put that out there for people who have done their story on our podcast and have been generous enough with their time that if they have any developments that they'd want to come back, even if they don't feel like, it's not that much, we could do a whole segment of updates,
Yeah. That would be awesome.
To catch up on some of our favorite people.
Absolutely. And guys, reach out. Please feel free to reach out if you would like to share your story on the show because we love hearing your stories and I love talking to you.
Yeah, I am Richard Castle. I have a website, richardcastle.com, where you can learn all about my, musical theater writing and my piano playing and all that wonderful stuff. Or you could just follow me on the Twitter at Castle Songs.
I'm Julie Dixon Jackson. You can follow me on the Twitter at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. You can follow the podcast on the Twitter at CutOff Jeans Pod. Join our Facebook private group, CutOff Jeans Podcast. You have to answer a question to get in. Or send me an email, julesjackson with 2 O's at cutoffjeans.com.
Julie, it is so hot today that I am not wearing any pants.
Well, then you're never going to know the truth because the truth is in your jeans.